Hi, this is Charles from our course, and today we're going to go over how to use the techniques we discussed in the last video on process of elimination to some hypothetical SAT answer choices. Be aware, these answer choices are not based on any reading text passage. We are solely looking at the wording of the answer choices to think about the ways that we can do process of elimination. In a sense, it's almost like you're reverse engineering a passage and thinking about the sort of information the passage would need to contain to justify a certain answer choice. And based on that, right, you can really think about a lot of assumptions and typical SAT passages that you can use to make those eliminations. Again, this connects to that active reading strategy of identifying the topic and main idea of a reading passage. But really, especially with nonfiction passages, right, they have very similar purposes, which are typically to inform or persuade. And then based on knowing that purpose of a passage, that should connect a lot, again, to the wording of an answer choice and allow you to make many of those eliminations. If you want to follow along, this is taken from the Foundational Strategy for Digital SAT Reading and Writing. Okay, let's now look at some examples of how you would apply these techniques to some hypothetical answer choices. When we're looking at these answer choices, there is no text, right? We're just looking at the answer choice for the information to think about really on a deep level how the question is wording and what the answer choice might refer to. So we'll look at our first answer choice. So scientists are subject here, right? That would relate again to the topic of that passage, right? Probably some sort of research about something, but they disproved the hypothesis and criticized its proponents for their failure to consider alternatives. Okay, now we talked a lot about the verbs used, right? That was one of our techniques. So we look at our verbs here. We have disproved, criticized. This is part of a prepositional phrase, but their failure to consider. So some very, very strong language there, right? We don't typically like, extreme language. Now, if we thought about a text that would match this answer choice, right? We're sort of working backwards here just as an exercise, but the text would need to be persuasive, right? The scientists or the research would need to be arguing a point and attacking some other research and people that are, proponents of a certain hypothesis. That seems very strong. So, again, when you're doing that active reading strategy and you identify that the purpose of a passage is informative, you could not have extreme language like this. And again, scientist makes me think that, it's a pretty typical passage for a nonfiction passage where it's just an informative passage, maybe presenting some sort of new research. So as is, it would clearly, depend on the actual text. But this would be a very, very odd answer choice. Most likely you would eliminate this answer choice, for a variety of texts, right? So we would not keep that answer choice. Okay, let's look at another example. So in this case, we have the student criticizes politicians for their lack of courage and immorality in not supporting civil rights. Okay. Now, we do have nonfiction passages talking about students' opinions. Sometimes maybe it is, one of the bullet point questions. Typically, though, in those student-type passages, right, students may be expressing opinions. We notice here, right, it's not, so much scientific as, they're criticizing politicians, which seems like a bit more safe than criticizing, scientists or people supporting a hypothesis, as we saw in that first answer choice. So even though we have slightly, I should say, stronger verbs, or at least similar verbs, this seems a lot more acceptable because it's about a student, and again, we could envision a passage where a student is expressing an opinion, where that would be a lot more rare if it was a scientist. Again, if you had a fiction passage and you had a character instead of a scientist, a character could do a lot more extreme things and you could have a lot more extreme verbs. describing something about a character or a character's reaction than you could for a nonfiction scientific passage. So again, that's what I was saying about how the process of elimination really connects a lot to that active reading strategy and taking the time, for nonfiction passages to identify topic, man, idea, purpose, and to a lesser extent on fiction passages, that characterization, setting, and plot. Okay, let's look at a few more examples. And again, these are hypothetical, just looking at some answer choices and thinking, could this be possible given the information in a specific answer choice? So here, we have the main character detests her boss, another strong verb here, and contemplates why she puts up with his bullying. Okay, so we have main character, right? Clearly, that is going to be a fiction passage. We could have that stronger verb detests, and contemplates, again, wouldn't really have an issue. That's not, a very extreme language. So yeah, for number one, I would keep that. That seems possible. Okay. Number two, the scientist questions a commonly held belief about the dangers of GMOs. So once again, verb choice, super important. Notice it doesn't say disproves, it doesn't attack, it questions, right? So that verb choice is nice and neutral, even though, it does seem like in this case, it's not a straight informative passage, right? This answer choice is a lot more acceptable because it doesn't contain such extreme language, even if it is maybe an opinionated scientific passage. So yeah, we could keep this. It does seem possible. Okay, number three, the experts assert that the benefits negate any risks. Okay, so, it's not always going to be the verb that's used. So if we look at our verb here, our main verb, assert, that seems okay. Right? Assert, like questions, is expressing an opinion, perhaps. But we look at the rest of that sentence. The benefits negate any risk. That is a very extreme statement. Negate, again, would to mean that they sort of, take precedence over and discount them, basically. But yeah, to say any risks, right, that's expressing, 100% certainty that there's not one risk that it wouldn't negate. I would eliminate question three. I do not like that. It's way too extreme, even though, the verb isn't necessarily extreme. So three would be gone. I'll just go back. So number one, we kept. Number two, we kept. But yeah, three we would eliminate. Okay, number four. So lower consumption of sodium chloride is associated with health benefits according to some studies. So yeah, comparing this to the last answer choice. According to some studies, it doesn't say all studies. It doesn't say any study. So yeah, you can just see the wording there is a lot more neutral. It's a lot more open. It leaves open possibilities. And so that's what we're saying, right? We don't like super specific answers. We don't like answers expressing a high degree of certainty. We have a nice neutral verb here, associated. So yeah, we would keep number four. That seems great. Okay. Number five, results confirm, pretty strong verb to start out here, that no solution is possible. Now, possible isn't a terrible, or I should say a terribly extreme, word choice, but no solution is possible. That whole part expresses a pretty extreme sentiment. And for that reason, yeah, I would eliminate five right away. And again, every now and again, you might have a passage that expresses some certainty, but yeah, that would need to be directly stated in the passage. And again, just hypothetically looking at this answer choice, I don't like the wording, I would eliminate that. All right, number six, the student dismisses the rationale and then shows how it is based on flawed logic. Okay, we have slightly extreme kind of sentiment here. Dismisses and then show how it's based on flawed logic. But once again, it is a student, right? And a lot of times those text passages about students are expressing some sort of opinion. So yeah, we could potentially keep number six. All right, seven, bacteria directly affect the absorption of nutrients. Honestly, number seven, you could go either way. What I would say here, again, if it was directly stated in the passage, it's a bit too much certainty. Directly affect the absorption of nutrients. I would like it a lot more if it said, may affect the absorption of some nutrients or can have an effect. But as it is, and again, this one is on the fence, but yeah, I would eliminate 7. And again, these are just exercises to get you to think about this. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer in all these cases. But yeah, we do not like that extreme sentiment. All right, 8, the most important factor. Right away, we have a superlative. The most important factor. Do not like that. Okay, let's read the rest. In determining chemical dependence is a person's genetic predisposition. I would eliminate, yeah, I don't like the superlative there. Like if it said an important factor, that would be okay, but the most important factor, yeah, it's a bit too much. All right, number 9, the influence of environmental factors likely contributes. Yeah, notice the difference here compared to the last one. It likely contributes. Again, it leaves open the room for some doubt. It's, still trying to show that it does contribute, expressing, kind of a similar idea, but just in a lot less certain language. Yeah, so I like number 9. I would keep number 9. Number 10, efforts are doomed to fail due to lack of public support. Okay, that word doomed, our verb, clearly way too much certainty. The topic of this answer choice isn't super clear. Are the efforts about like a scientific effort to, clean something up? Are they about a political effort from a student? So this answer choice doesn't provide us a lot of, context here. We're not exactly sure what type of text or passage this would have belonged to. But yeah, a lot of certainty. I would likely eliminate number 10 unless, the passage stated that explicitly. So again, yeah, you can see it's not always just one of these techniques, or it's not all of these techniques, but yeah, you get a feel for the type of answers that the SAT likes, right? So again, we like open, kind of neutral verbs. We do not like certainty, and you can see, it's going to depend a lot on the text. And then again, when you do that active reading strategy, you identify the topic, main idea, and purpose of especially nonfiction passages. That should really kind of set the parameters for the types of answer choices that you're looking for. If you're having trouble, getting started or feel like you need some direction in a study plan, please go to alcoris.com. What you can do there is take the full-length College Board practice test. When you input your answers, it will give you a very precise breakdown of all these issues along with additional practice. So you can really isolate these issues to get your scores up. There's a lot of other very cool features on there, like a college database to help you with your search for colleges or majors. There is personality testing you can do to help you shape your applications or think about possible careers. You can generate application tasks to really help organize your deadlines and all of those application components. So yeah, a lot of very cool things you can do on there. Please check that out. If you have questions or need anything clarified, as always, please let me know in the comments. I'll catch you on the next one.